Hello, welcome to a vlog. We are halfway through the month, but I have decided to vlog the Asian readathon, which is very late, but not too late because I haven't actually finished a book yet. Eh? I'm currently reading Kafka on the Shore, and literally I have, let me do some quick maths. I have about 40 pages left, so I will finish this and tell you all my thoughts. Also in this vlog, I plan to not just read Asian books, but also watch like Asian dramas and films. So I'll vlog that when that happens through the month as well. It's currently a very monumentous time. I am on the finale of the K-drama Hello My 20s. Emotional. If you watch K-drama as well, let me know which ones you like. The finale. Let's go. I'm getting crumbs when your ship is just not coming together and it's the finale episode. I can't watch the rest. Hello, my 20s just finished. Email hours open. Hello. Am I about to review a book laid on my bedroom floor? Yes. So I finished Kafka on the Shore by Murakami yesterday. And I definitely have a lot of thoughts, a lot of mixed opinions. Overall, I am glad I read this, and for me this was a 4-star read. Now, I definitely thought it was going to be a 5 stars because it's so quirky. It's like surrealist fiction where there's no rules almost. Anything can happen, and absolutely anything does happen. So the basic plot, I mean, it's a little bit hard to describe because the plot is on steroids, all the A-class drugs, but essentially we have a main character called Kafka, not his real name because he is on the run. He's trying to get away from his dad, who is this horrible weirdo. So he's meeting people along the way and becomes part of this library where the people running the library kind of take them under his wing, and it gets weird. And then we also follow, as well as Kafka, we follow an old man called Nakata. Now, when Nakata was a child, he was part of this like freak event where everyone in his class, including him, fell into a coma. Now, everyone kind of really quickly recovers, no harm done, except Nakata, who stays in this coma for ages. When he finally wakes up, he's empty basically. He can't remember anything. He can't read, he can't write, and he never learns within his lifetime. He leads a very, very simple life. He can talk to cats. You're like, oh, okay, yes. You'll get that a lot, just things popping up that you just, we're going with. We don't know why. I actually really loved hearing from Nakata's perspective. He lives this supremely simple life, but he's so content. Kafka's perspective was at times much less enjoyable for me because Kafka is a hormonal 15-year-old boy. And boy, were we hearing about his thoughts. Do you get what I'm saying? So there was definitely content within this book which is not my favourite to read about, and I kind of skim read it because I thought, no thanks, not really here for that. This book is so strongly about metaphors within life. It's really philosophy heavy, so I think where the philosophy parts were more dense, I certainly lost out from that because I really know nothing about philosophy. If you love it, then you'll definitely, I think, vibe with that, because I certainly loved the psychology reference in this. There's very strong Freudian themes, which, I could appreciate because I could understand it, but I almost think that if you don't know much about psychology or philosophy, you could still enjoy this, but I think you're missing out on stuff. I don't know. If you've read this, let me know what you think about that. But yes, it was just such a ride, and after each chapter you're like, what is gonna happen? Like, I really don't know where this is going. So that was so much fun. But then another gripe I had with it was the representation of women. Not a huge fan. Oh my gosh, I have to say, another thing that was so cool about this book, probably kind of one of my favorite aspects of it, were just all the literary and music references within this. So music wise, we had Prince, Radiohead, Beethoven, and also another huge reason why I was drawn to this book is because it's called Kafka on the Shore, and I like Franz Kafka, and I didn't necessarily think there would be a link, but oh, there was. We had some Franz Kafka rep. Within this, they talk about the book In the Penal Colony, and I instantly bought that book and read it, but that was a good time. Okay, I don't know how this is gonna go, but I thought it'd be fun to try and write my own chapter of Kafka on the Shore. So to write my own chapter, I've written out different plot points and I'm gonna roll a dice. Like, I'll write a plot point and I've numbered it from 1 to 6, and then whatever I roll will determine what happens in that chapter. So I don't know if that makes sense, but let's just give it a go. So in this chapter, it starts with Kafka strolling down the street. Suddenly he bumps into ... It's either going to be, depending on the dice roll, his mother who abandoned him, his older sister, his evil father, a living spirit, a talking cat, or a World War II soldier. So I gotta roll the dice. Okay, 6. So when Kafka was strolling down the street, he bumped into a World War II soldier. Now the next plot point is Kafka suddenly gasps because ... Is it he realizes he's covered in someone else's blood? Leeches start falling from the sky? A playground of kids suddenly fall into a coma? He thinks he sees a ghost? He realizes he's naked? Or a dark prophecy about him starts coming true? Okay, dice roll. 1. So he gasps because he realizes he's covered in someone else's blood. Now, in the end, he realizes to solve his problem, he must ... track down a rare vinyl, stare at a painting of the seaside, kill a cat murderer, wait for lightning to strike, flip over a really heavy stone, or learn to surf. 4. That's wait for lightning to strike. So in the chapter I have written for, Murakami, if he wants, he can put that into the next edition of Kafka on the Shore. We've got Kafka was strolling down the street when he bumped into a World War II soldier. Kafka suddenly gasps because he realizes he's covered in someone else's blood. In the end, he realizes that to solve his problems, he must wait for lightning to strike. Now, essentially, if you've not read this book, 100% that is a chapter you could expect. That was high-key believable. Okay, that was a riot. Oh, I need to colour in my squares. I've made this like May TBR thing to kind of keep track of my reading. So I need to colour in the squares for the pages I finished from Kafka on the Shore last night. Oop. Okay, so each square represents 50 pages. This is hard to track because I've just written the initials of the book title. I need to colour in these squares for Kafka on the Shore. Let's colour in the lines. Does anybody know what any of these books are? This one, is the book I'm gonna start next, which is Boosh. I'm sorry, I'm still laid on my floor. What is this angle? Just chill. I'm just having a chill time lying down. But yeah, the next book I'm gonna start is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, or Celeste Ng. I've heard people say it differently, but essentially I'm so excited to read this. I recommend Susan's vlog when she's reading this. I'll link it down below. Basically, what I think is so powerful is that she relates to this book so much for like a variety of different reasons. And I think for those same reasons, I'm perhaps not going to relate to this book in the same way, But that's kind of what makes, I guess, literature as a whole so important and so exciting. I have the opportunity to learn more about other people and other people's experiences through something that I've not gone through myself, through characters that are different from me, etc., etc., which I guess is the whole point of the Asian readathon. I don't know if that makes sense, but essentially all the reasons why Susan related to this book, and perhaps I won't, is kind of why I'm excited to read it. Also, I actually love this yellow spine. It is time to read, my dudes. Okay, so I've been reading this and I've got about 75 pages left. So I'm gonna finish it in the garden, having a cold drink. It will be nice. Okay, time for some more Asian rep in TV. This is Never Have I Ever. I've literally just started it. It features the main character, who is an Indian American teen. I literally don't know what I think of it so far. But yeah, just giving it a go. I know lots of people say it's super hilarious. So yeah. Oh, hey girl, hey! You wouldn't know this, but it's been very long since I last updated. I have in that time finished Everything I Never Told You. Unfortunately, this wasn't a 5-star read to me. I thought it might be because obviously I mentioned Susan, who really loves it, and when I hauled this, I had so many comments like, Everything I Never Told You, mwah, chef's kiss, yes. And it definitely didn't like quite match that for me. More of a 4-star read. So definitely still really liked it. As I explained before, so we have Lydia, who dies over the summer. We follow Lydia while she's alive, and also the family, learning about their secrets, their dark sides, more twisted elements of their personality. I think one of the reasons I didn't love this was because I really didn't like the characters. To me, it kind of felt like they treated their families really poorly, and the book definitely, don't get me wrong, gives loads of reasons, perhaps why they're not the best people, why they're making these mistakes. But despite all that, I was still like, no, I don't like you. Most of those feelings are aimed towards the mother, Marilyn. She has a really good story. Okay, let me hype Marilyn up real quick. She wants to be a doctor and she has these big dreams, but the culture, society is absolutely like, no, Marilyn, you are a woman, like, please could you go bake some cakes, which is really perpetuated by her mother, who just wants her to find a husband, settle down, have that kind of like American white picket fence family vibe, but she just wants to become a doctor. That's her dream, which is definitely really inspiring, because despite all of this against her, she's trying to live her goals. However, here's where my Marilyn beef comes in. She does marry and have children. We can see how she harbours regret and disappointment, and she inflicts that on her children, which is just absolutely not okay for me. At times you really feel like she resents her children for stopping her from living her dreams. Obviously all for ladies living their dreams, but as soon as you've had a child and you're suddenly like, oh, I wish I could turn back the clock and not have a child, like, no, you can't put that on the kids. So I just felt so sorry for her kids. Okay, let me stop my little negativity, because like I said, it's like nearly a 4-star book, which is a very high rating. But that's like my rant. Oh, by the way, like, I think all the books I'm mentioning in this readathon vlog have trigger warnings, so FYI, those are all going down in the comments if you want to know that. I would really like to discuss the family psychology within this book, because that is something that I've definitely been chewing over after I finished it, which I think is really cool when a book sticks with you and you're really trying to think about it and figure it out. So this might be super boring discussion for some people, but I think we see a lot of attachment issues within this. So attachment typically is the relationships you make with your parents or primary caregivers, and depending on how secure or insecure those attachments are, affects your life as you grow up and affects how you have relationships with other people, which is just a theory. So with this theory of attachment, we see how both the parents in this, Marilyn and James, are poorly attached with their parents. In their formative teens, they begin to turn away and kind of hate their roots, hate where they've come from, hate what they have been taught. And I think all of this resentment for their parents absolutely gets internalized, and without them meaning to, they then pass that down to their children. So then that brings us to, how do the children attach with their parents then in this environment? For those who are interested, in my opinion, each of the children represent a different attachment type, which I thought was really intriguing. So for example, Hannah seems to be insecure resistant, and that's essentially, if your mother doesn't often tell you how much she loves you or gives you affection such as like physical touch, the insecure resistant type will perhaps become very clingy, very easy to please. Hannah definitely loves her mother in this, so allows herself to be ignored and just is there kind of in the background to comfort her mum if she needs. I think ultimately Hannah feels positively towards her mother, but she definitely gets nothing back. But because Hannah is insecure resistant, she will stay there for her mum and rely on her. And then we have Lydia, who is insecure disorganized, which means that she shows a range of attachment types with her mum. So we see that in her early years, Lydia has a really positive attachment with her mum, but because of events that happen, she suddenly really feels like she needs to fulfill the expectations on her and become everything her mum wants her to be. So at times she expresses how much she loves her mother, how much her mum is so important to her. You know, without her, she would die, kind of that dramatic feelings. But due to that also, she really starts to hate her mum and how much she is changing her life to fit with what Marilyn wants. So again, at times that causes her to completely back away, become really distant and put on a facade. And then Nath is, again, a different attachment type. He's insecure avoidant, which means that he is comfortable leaving his mother's side, doing whatever he wants to do, and will just avoid her. As we saw with Hannah, this is because his parents haven't really proved their love for him. They don't really accept him. So instead of having a good relationship, he walks away. So I don't know if that made sense. I probably explained that super badly, but I really liked how they seem to be different attachment types. And the other attachment type I haven't mentioned is secure, which means you have a good relationship, and I don't think any of these characters did. So interesting. And the other bit of psychology I just thought was really relevant is Freud's theory of displacement, and we see a lot of displacement from Marilyn and James. So for example, to use James, who has been so hurt by society as a whole with their racism and their intolerance, for him coming from an immigrant family, James understandably has a lot of anger and a lot of hurt towards society. But because society, you can't rage against them, you can't fight back at them, they're too big, that's too much of a powerful idea. James displaces that anger and that hurt onto his kids, who aren't powerful, so he doesn't even mean to, but he takes his anger out on them, and he takes his anger out on his wife, really subtly but really harmfully. So again, like, I thought that was really interesting. So I don't know if I've described my thoughts for that book, but thanks so much, Suze, for the recommendation. Update on the last book I am reading for the Asian readathon, which is The Astonishing Colour of After. This is the Paper Vacations book club pick for this month. I am nearly halfway through. I think the story so far is really beautiful. Asian representation wise, Lee's mother is Taiwanese. It's such a vivid story. As the title says, the astonishing colour of After. This book is all about colour and emotions as colours. I can't tell if our main character has synesthesia and that she actually does see colours when she feels certain emotions, or if her and her friend Axel have a colour code for how they feel. I'm not really sure, but so certainly interesting so far. Okay, I'm having to refilm this because in my last clip I didn't realise that kids from next door were yelling the entire time. So I didn't want it to sound like I'd locked children in my basement or something awful like that. They were just, you know, having a hoot in the garden in the summer sun. Who can blame them? But anyway, so I've just finished The Astonishing Colour of After by Emily X.R. Pan. Again, this was our Paper Vacations book club pick for May. All the details for our live show are going to be in the description, so it'd be great if you could discuss it with us. But essentially, I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a beautiful tale of a girl called, I don't know if she's called Lee or Lay, but I think I'll go with Lay. So it follows Lay, whose mother struggles with depression, and this leads her mother to end her life. And Lay is obviously left with this grief and confusion of how something so terrible could happen. And one day it seems that Lee's mother has come back to her in the form of a large red bird. So this story is certainly fantastical and whimsical, and the bird has a message for Lay to remember. Please remember, which is vague, but ultimately this leads Lay on this journey to Taiwan, where her mother is from, and where she has grandparents who her mother has never spoken of and who she's never met. And through this, and by the way, the setting of Taiwan just sounds so gorgeous and amazing. And through Lay being there, she learns about her family, more about her mother, more about her roots, I suppose. And I think that aspect of the story is really uplifting, and by no means is her grief downplayed in this, but there are absolutely hopeful and still happy parts of this story, which I thought was wonderful. For anyone who's following my channel, you'll know that I am very interested in books about mental health or psychology, since I study mental health nursing, and as everyone is saying, this does have really good mental health rep. Obviously it doesn't have the representation for someone struggling with grief or depression. It just has one version, one way it might look in somebody's life. But that, I think that was definitely portrayed really well. Is there anything more I wanted to say? Oh, my rating. So I'm actually not sure, but at the moment I'm kind of sitting on a 3.5 or a 4 because there was so much I loved, but there were certain aspects of this, such as the romance element, which I kind of didn't really buy into at all, so I didn't really appreciate that. Ultimately, what let me down is I know a lot of people really connect with this, and since it deals with such sad topics, I know people cry while reading this. I personally didn't connect that strongly, and emotionally wasn't necessarily that impacted, so my appreciation for it was more like in my head than how I was feeling. So certainly still a high rating, but it didn't, you know, hit me in the heart, which I think this story definitely could have and definitely does for some people. But yeah. Woo! To recap then, my Asian readathon, I read 3 books. I read Kafka on the Shore, that was weird. I read Everything I Never Told You, that was deep. And I read The Astonishing Colour of After, and that was beautiful. So overall, I think a success. I hope it went well for you guys. I really enjoyed the books that I chose for this readathon, because not only were they written by Asian or Asian American authors, they also were deeply rooted in certain cultures or certain people's experiences. So it was very educational for me, which I think was, you know, the whole point. So I hope it went well for everybody else. Let me know how it went for you and recommend any books to me, please. That is all. Goodbye for now. I'll see you later. Hope you are all safe and well. Lots of love.